I have a real passion for child nutrition. It's so very important for all of us to have good nutrition and to have a healthy lifestyle. But to me, it is even more important for our children, because that's really placing the foundation for our children for the rest of their lives, and it can really make a difference. And this morning's session we've called Food Habits for a Lifetime. A large part of your child's education depends on what you give them for lunch and what you give them for breakfast. Probably should have said that the other way around. Breakfast and lunch. And often they are the meals that are fairly meagre or sometimes even missed out on. So those two meals are very, very important. Some research has been done recently, and they used 5,000 children and young people between the ages of 6 and 18 years of age. And they found some very alarming statistics, and this was done not all that long ago. It was a 3-day food study. They found that 1 in 4 children did not have cereal, rice, or pasta, and that 1 in 6 children had no fruit or vegetables. Now you might say, really? This is what it showed, and they surveyed 5,000 children. 1 in 10 had no milk or dairy food. And so that's pretty serious, isn't it? Many children miss out on important nutrients. The nutrients that come from our food are essential for our growth. They are essential for brain development. They are essential for their intelligence, for our intelligence, for concentration, and also for academic performance. School does have a cost, and not that we need to evaluate that cost and say, are we getting our money's worth? But let me tell you, if you look at good nutrition for your children, you will find that they will actually be able to function better. Their brain power will actually be a little stronger. Their concentration will be better. And they may be able to remember a little better of what the teacher is trying to get across to them. And so, yes, nutrition is very important. They also need to have an adequate fluid intake. And so most of the fluids that come into a child's system, as we all know, usually have a colour and usually has lots of sugar, and maybe caffeine as well. Most of the fluid that needs to go into our children's bodies, and for ourselves as adults as well, is actually water. And you might say, well, I've tried so hard to get my boy or girl to drink water, and they just don't like it. Dilute fruit juices to start with. Meet them where they are and bring them one step at a time, and do it slowly. Otherwise you'll find that they'll say, no, I don't want that, and they may not drink anything at all, and that's not good either. Dehydration is very serious. The brain has a very high water content, if we can say that. It's around 75%. The body is around 60, but the brain actually is a little higher. And so when dehydration occurs or the water level starts to drop a little, this suffers. Now that's not good for any of us, but it's not good while your child is sitting inside the classroom trying to remember what the teacher is telling them, or trying to recall information that they need for tests. And so yes, fluid is very important. And having enough fluid and also paying attention to nutrition makes a big difference to the health and well-being of your child. Our children are a precious gift, and I'm sure that you agree with that. And we want to give them the very best possible start in life for many reasons. Establishing healthy food habits at an early age will provide children with a head start. Wonderful feeling when you look at your boy or your girl and say, I'm going to give my child a head start, and you can do that. Now, genetically, we are individuals, but lifestyle, what we eat, the exercise program that we have regularly, what we choose to drink on a regular basis, has a tremendous influence on the way that this wonderful body operates. Our attitudes to food. These are shaped quite early in life. And we as parents, guardians, or whoever you are, you actually have quite a big influence on the attitude that your child will adopt towards food and lifestyle issues. And that can actually make a difference. Well, it will make a difference to your children now, but it can make a difference for the rest of their lives. Feeding children can be a huge challenge, and I do know that as well. And what makes it even a little more challenging, interesting, is that that's the time that they really need to learn about good food and how food affects our bodies. And so there's just those two areas that are important, and where your teaching and your attitude will make a difference to their understanding and then to adopting those healthy lifestyle practices. Children don't usually have heart disease or high blood pressure, fortunately. And this type of food that we provide for our children actually is what makes the difference. And now is the time to teach them about good food. You'll find that when you look at the growth rate of children, that from age 5 to age 12, there's a lot of physical growth. But the intellectual and the social development is also very progressive. And everything is interconnected. And so again, healthy eating, drinking enough water, and having some exercise is very important. Now, as you look at that graph, you'll notice something. It's the growth rate of the different parts of the body. You'll notice that the red line is the sexual development and growth rate. And you'll find until the child is 12 years of age, there isn't very much difference. And then the line starts going up because development is ongoing from then on. When you look at the yellow line, which is in the middle of the graph, you'll find that that's total body growth. When you look at the green line, which is on top of the graph, you will notice something very interesting, and that is the growth rate of the brain. Have a look at that again. Between birth and the time a child is 2 years old, there is a huge, the line is very sharp and it is going up very steep, which means that the development of the brain is very big for ages between they are born and by the time they are 1 or 2 years old. And sometimes we don't realise that. Not that you need to sit down and teach them arithmetic, but just remember that with nutrition going into the system, that all of these areas, these important areas of our body, are nourished from the food that you choose to give them and the drinks that you choose to give them. There are some principles of a healthy lifestyle. Healthy eating, and we've already said quite a bit about healthy eating. Also, regular exercise. That is just as important. Years ago, I guess when I was young, we were playing outside. Today, there are many different activities that children take part in, and often they are sitting on a chair, whether it is the computer, whether it is the PlayStation, whether it is the television set. They are actually not as active as what we would have been when we were younger. So we need to encourage to have our children play, whether it's games or whether it's sport, or go for a walk with them and help them to understand how very important physical fitness is to them. They also need to have relaxation, and that is doing something that they're happy about and where they feel relaxed. And then the fourth principle is sleep, also very important. Many children go to bed quite late today. I've had children who've said to me, 10 o'clock, 10:30 is when I go to bed. And I say to them, well, how do you feel when you get up in the morning and you need to go to school? Oh, we're a bit tired, but, we get to school, usually without breakfast, because the body is too tired. And so having enough sleep is really important, and it just rejuvenates the whole body, the whole system. Encourage your children to make healthy food choices. Fortunately now, when it comes to tuck shops, when it comes to canteens at school or whatever you call them, they are now encouraged by the government to provide food that is just a little more healthy than what it used to be. There used to be a lot of lollies and a lot of sugary foods and also a lot of salty foods. And so I'm very pleased to see that there are some standards today. However, even with the standards, it's important that our children understand healthy food choices. Doesn't mean they can never have a piece of chocolate or they can never have some chips. But they need to understand that on a regular basis, it is really important to have good food and help them to understand why. And that will make a difference. Children do listen, even though they might look like they're not interested. You say it in the right way, and that does go into their minds. Help them to be involved in planning meals. I've noticed that most children actually enjoy being part of the kitchen process and help to plan meals. I've also found that if a child isn't all that keen on particular types of foods, if they help you put it together and there are only small quantities in there, often they will be happy to take the food. Shopping and cooking, they can be part of that as well. Children like to feel involved, and I guess we like to be involved too, but that also goes for children. They also enjoy growing food. And so if you haven't got a garden, you may live in a flat, have some pots on your veranda and just grow some tomatoes. The little cherry tomatoes are very easy to grow, and there are other things that you can grow as well, and help them and show them just how easy it is and how, yes, they do need to look after it and then to pick it and have it part of their food. I'd like to now talk about the importance of breakfast. I'm sure you know that that is the most important meal of the whole day. Your body is in need of food more at breakfast time than what it is at lunchtime or what it is in the evening. And it doesn't mean that lunch doesn't matter in the evening meal, I can skip it, but it just shows you how really important the breakfast meal is. You see, we should have been sleeping 8 or plus hours, and we haven't had anything to eat or drink during those times. Everything inside your body slows down when you're sleeping, and that's good. And sleeping is very important for it to be undisturbed if possible. But by the time you wake up, you will find that the body is in need of food for energy. It does have a bit of a storage supply, as you know, but it needs food for energy. It also needs food for your brain to work properly. The main food, if we can call it, the main nutrient that your brain needs is actually glucose. Ideally, that should come from whole grains. It can come from a little sugar, but if there's too much sugar there, that actually interferes with brain function. And so carbohydrates, which we will talk about a little later, if they come from whole grains, that actually has a very positive effect on the brain. And so breakfast is a very important meal. And to me, I usually say it's a smart way to start the day. And that's for all ages, but especially children. And seeing we're talking about children today. Breakfast not only fills the tummy and they're happy to go to school, but it also will help to keep your immune system or their immune system strong and healthy, which fights infections and other nasties. And that is really important for all of us, but also for our children. So a good breakfast should have carbohydrates, which are starches and sugars, but ideally the sugar should come from a natural source, such as a piece of fruit or perhaps a little fruit juice. It should have fiber, and fiber only comes from plant foods. And so if there are lots of animal food served at breakfast time with a very small amount of food that comes from a plant source, your fiber is going to be really low. It should have some iron, and the iron is available through animal foods as well as through plant foods. And again, in our second session, we will explain that a little more. Calcium is important, and so are the big group of vitamins. And so having a good breakfast where there's whole grains, where you've got some milk or a substitute for milk like Sanitarium So Good, or another soya drink that is fortified with calcium, some iron from your whole grains. Whole grains provide a good source of iron, and also some fibre, and that gives you a good start to the day. When it comes to breakfast cereals, and there are so many on the supermarket shelf, and I'm sure you walk past the supermarket shelf, and if your children are with you, they're going to help you choose. And this is what we need. And many of our cereals are hardly worth eating when it comes to nutrition. Yes, they may taste nice, but when it comes to nutrition, there's not a lot in there. What really gave me a smile, I was reading a document some time ago now, and it showed what whole grains contained. That was a cereal made with whole grain, and it had all the vitamins and minerals, and I think there were 16 or 17 of them. And then it showed you the refined cereals, and all those vitamins and minerals were gone because the grain was refined, whether it was rice, whether it was wheat, or whether it was corn, whatever it was, all the goodness was virtually gone, and only the starch was left. But we now have this system of enriching, whether it's bread or whether it's cereals. So there's an enrichment program, and that's good. And they put back 5 nutrients, vitamins and minerals. And they call that enriched. If someone took $17 out of my pocket and gave me 5 back, I don't think I'd feel enriched, would you? And so staying with whole grains is really the way to go. Now you might say, well, my children don't like whole grains. Go for something that is near whole grain, and then very slowly make some changes. Always meet children and adults. For ourselves, if we want to make changes, meet them where they are and bring them a small step at a time. You'll find that taste buds do adjust. And this up here adjusts as well. So we've looked at breakfast. Very important, as we said. Most important meal of the day. Lunch is also important for children at school. It should supply your child with a sustained source of energy that is needed for the afternoon lessons. Otherwise, you might finish up having your child sort of half asleep, or at least his mind is completely somewhere else because he can't concentrate. And so the lunch is important too. Getting children used to eating healthy lunches builds a good foundation, not just for while they're at school, but for the rest of their lives. So that's pretty important, isn't it? When you look at the growth rate, and we looked a little at the growth rate of the different parts of the body before, but when you look at the general growth rate of children from the time they're born until they're 18 years of age, would you believe it? The body increases about 20 times. So it is 20 times larger and heavier than what it was when we were born. And for the body to be able to function the way that our wonderful Creator designed it, and for us to have the energy that we need and the brain power that we also need, food are the building blocks. And so we should remember that. A child's rate of growth is an important indicator of their diet and also their general health. And as I said, the ingredients that we choose to use are the building blocks, not just for now, but for the rest of their lives. Something else that's important too, and that is the environment in which they find themselves when it comes to not only eating, I guess it's the general home environment, but especially when meals are served. It's very easy for children to become upset when the environment is not relaxed. And so really important for the environment to be relaxed. Now, there are times, there may be many times, when you need to say something to your child, something that he has done or she has done wrong, and it needs to be corrected. Please don't use the meal time to do that. That's not really an advantage. It goes against it. Say that at another time, but at the mealtime, try and have things relaxed and have a happy atmosphere. What's really interesting is that the body actually operates more effectively, more efficiently, when this up here is relaxed and happy. The digestive system works better for all of us, not just for children, when we're in a relaxed environment. If things are a bit tense and a little bit stressful, you'll find that the digestive system actually doesn't work quite as well. And some children actually finish up with pains in the stomach because they are stressed of whatever it is that is happening. Maybe there are some things that they hear, maybe there are some things that have been said that they don't understand. And in their minds, whether they're very small or whether they're older, that might actually cause a lot of stress. And so keep that away from the meal times and you'll find that it will be more successful. And you might say, well, it's not easy when we all sit down and I've spent an hour in the kitchen cooking and we've got the food on the table and they sit there and they stir it around and they say, we don't want this, Mum. And it happens, doesn't it? We all know it happens. And it's very difficult when it does happen. And so children are allowed to have food preferences. You and I are allowed to have food preferences too. But if they only like 2 or 3 things and they don't like everything else, well, there's a problem. And we need to bring a better balance there. We need to bring in more variety. And so start off with small amounts of good food that you know your children should be consuming on a regular basis to help them to get used to it. I know one child where he didn't like too many green vegetables. He's grown up now and he's fine. But when he was young, he wasn't really keen on green. And so putting a little cheese sauté over the top or a little white sauce or a little bit of gravy over the top, well, that helped. And we didn't need to do that too long. And so, yes, you may need to disguise it a little or you may need to put something over the top of it that they like to help them to eat it and then learn that it's not that bad and I can eat it. The other thing that's important too is not to discuss your own likes and dislikes of food. Easy to do. Sit at the table and Mum or Dad says to the other, "You've got carrots again. You know I don't like carrots." Well, immediately the children will say, "Oh, carrots. They're not much good. Maybe I won't eat my carrots either." And so don't discuss likes and dislikes of different foods at the mealtime. Because children, as we have all learned, and if you haven't learned yet and yours are still young, you will learn that they are perfect mimickers. They just take what you do and say and they then use it themselves. Aim for fairly regular times too for meals. Now I know that's not easy, particularly if Mum and Dad are both working, but reasonably regular times are very important. And then we've got the next problem, and that is snacking. And yes, when children are small, they may need something in between meals, but choose something healthy. Once they start on sweet things, you'll find that there's no end. And you'll also find that when it comes to meal times, they're not really all that hungry. And what you have cooked and what you have spent time with, they may not be happy to eat it. And it may not be that they don't like it. It may be that the stomach needs a little rest because it's been working most of the afternoon. Different ways of serving the food. Now, you might say, well, I'm a really busy mum. I haven't got time to serve food in different ways. We all do what we can. But having your food in the garden when it is a nice day, put a rug. You may not be able to go to the park. Just put a rug outside and then eat on the rug. And that's special for children. And that you may find that that will create a lovely atmosphere for them. I know of someone who does this. I haven't done it myself. Well, what I'm going to say now, I've done it in the garden. But I know of someone who actually puts a rug on the living room floor. And they sit in the living room and they sit on the floor just like they're in a park and there's a picnic. And so try that. It might work for you. Another thing that helps with getting children to eat their food, and that is not to serve large helpings. Serve small helpings and then give them seconds. And reward them. I don't mean with a piece of chocolate, but verbally. Reward them for having some seconds. The meal hour is a tremendous opportunity for their social development. And so we've been talking about the meal hour or meal time with our physical and mental development, but it is also part of the social development. Happy meal times are really important for healthy development. And so there are many benefits. And so to summarise, it's probably the easiest way to ensure that your children have healthy food, and that is to have mostly healthy food in your kitchen on a regular basis. Doesn't mean you can never have something special or something that we know we shouldn't be eating regularly. But regularly, if the food is healthy that you have in your pantry, that you have in your fridge, you'll find that that's a tremendous help. And so, when you go to the supermarket, there are all sorts of foods available. There are chocolates, there are cakes, there's lemonade, and there's all the biscuits, and we know what's available. If you've got all of that in your pantry and your fridge and your cupboards, your kids know exactly where it is. Have you ever noticed that? They know exactly where to go. And so if you want to reduce the intake of those sort of foods, then we need to make sure that it's not freely available at home. And so that's the end of our first session, and I hope that you have benefited, and that is the importance of good nutrition, the importance of drinking enough water, also of making sure that your children have enough sleep, relaxation and exercise. Thank you.